This video is proudly sponsored by Gamersgate. Download games anytime, anywhere. Visit Gamersgate.com.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Elder Geeks Game Club. This is episode number 30, Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet. My name is Steve and with me as always is Phil. Phil, how are you doing this evening?
I am excellent. How are you?
I'm doing quite well indeed. And of course we also have with us Randy. Randy, how are you doing tonight?
Doing well. Glad to be back again.
Glad to have you back.
I'm always glad to be back on this show.
And it's been a while.
It has, yes. I apologize for the delay. That is all my fault. I was
Steve's fault.
On vacation last week, and we were going to try to do the show a little early as opposed to later, but early didn't really work out for me, so we're doing it a week late. Sorry if you were waiting on this episode, and we appreciate you waiting on it, I guess. But we're here now, and we're talking about Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet. If this is your first time listening to the Game Club, the way it works is like this. We pick a game, the three of us decide on a game, and then we spend a couple weeks playing it, and then we get together and do kind of a book club kind of discussion about the game. We talk about things we liked, things we didn't like. It's not really a full formal review, it's just kind of a discussion amongst friends, and we invite our community to check it out and listen and play the game along and submit your comments. We're always happy to read them on the show.
So it's like a real book club, but with a lot less wine and cheese, and we don't gather in person. We do it online.
Yeah, a little bit of wine and cheese, but not
it's more coffee and Mountain Dew on my end.
It's not an excessive amount, so we try to keep it tasteful. So, Phil, do you want to go ahead and give us a little bit of a background on Shadow Planet?
Yeah, sure, of course. So, Shadow Planet, to start with, it's a kind of Metroidvania meets twin-stick shooter. I mean, that's kind of the best, easiest way to describe it so people would understand what it is. You're this UFO, and you just kind of fly through a maze of mazes, and you acquire items and power up like you would in a Metroid game, and you explore. And that's, that's how it works. And you fight big, cool bosses and stuff. And Shadow Planet was created by Shadow Planet Productions, which is made of both Fuel Cell Games and Gagne International. So I'm not sure if Fuel Cell, because I looked them up and their only game is Shadow Planet, and I'm not sure if they were created for the sake of making Shadow Planet or if there's like this goal to make more games, because the game was designed by Michel Gagne. Mm-hmm. Who I guess makes up the obviously the Gagne International part of the group here. This is like his brainchild. This is his thing. So I don't know if he just kind of assembled a team just to make this game because he wanted to make this game. I don't know if they're like a game company that plans to make more games. I don't have answers for that. So like I said, it was designed by Michel Gagne, and his background is actually in traditional animation. He's kind of like an animation vet. He's worked on a ton of movies. He worked for Bluth and Warner Brothers. He did work on American Tail, Land Before Time, All Dogs Go to Heaven, Iron Giant. So, animated films that I think most people would know, right?
Well, at least most people our age would know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. He did this short called Prelude to Eden. You can actually watch it on YouTube. It's pretty awesome. I would watch it. He's known for like producing like he's like a visual effects artist, which makes sense when you look at Shadow Planet. Like he did visual effects in Ratatouille. Do you remember the scene in the movie where like Remy, his name was Remy, right? Remy
yeah.
The rat?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Remy's eating he's eating the food and he's describing it, and there's like these like little things swirling around his head, and like he did that stuff. He did all the all the effects for that kind of stuff. He apparently came up with like the effects work for the Star Wars Clone Wars cartoon series. So he's got a pretty sweet resume. He's put out some books. There's one called Saga of Rex. It's about like this little fox dude. He did a Batman book, Batman Spore, 2003. So he's all over now. He's video games. He is conquering all forms of media. And Shadow Planet, the idea was kind of explored originally by Gagne in a series of like interstitials that he created for Nickelodeon during Halloween of 2005. They were called the Insanely Twisted Shadow Puppets.
Explain to people what an interstitial is.
It is a like in between shows you might get like a little short or something like that, and this is what would appear in between. Maybe there's like a Drake and Josh Halloween special, and then it's over. They'll show you a shadow puppet short, and then they'll move on to something else.
So it's not necessarily like a commercial, and it's not necessarily a part of the cartoon that you just watched. It is a short cartoon of its own that they would put during commercial time.
Yeah. Yes. I believe so. Yeah, it's not like they just showed this. It's not like it had like a dedicated spot, like if that's what you mean, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That's what I mean.
Like that night they probably had, a bunch of Halloween specials, and throughout it they just kind of threw these in here throughout the night.
Before we move on from the designer, I'd like to point out the fact that this might be the first time in history that the last name of a designer has been pronounced properly. And
honestly,
and it's funny, and I know exactly why it is too. It's because of Simone Gagne, and growing up in the Philadelphia area, Simone Gagne of the Philadelphia Flyers. So we all know how to pronounce his name.
You know how to say that.
Because if it wasn't for that, we would have just destroyed his name.
Gagne.
Yeah, we would have
like and Michael Gagne.
Yeah, we would have annihilated it.
Mitchell Gagne.
I looked at it and right away I'm like, oh, Gagne, right.
Yeah.
But we've also had just some brutal last names coming up into this point. We're just like, and for some reason they've all been French too. Like there's a ton of French designers that we've been playing recently.
Yeah.
But,
he's Canadian. This guy's Canadian.
He's French Canadian?
Yeah. So
there you go.
So the shorts are called the Insanely Twisted Shadow Puppets, and you can find those on YouTube as well. He actually uploaded them himself, like all the ones he made. They're one big video file. It's only a couple minutes long.
In fact, one of the Insanely Twisted Shadow Puppets is like part of the intro to the game Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet. Like, don't they use it as like part of their I don't know how you put it, like when they show their logo or something like that, or part of the intro video?
It's possible. It's kind of escaping my mind right now, but yeah, it's possible. I mean, the look of them. I mean, if you look at Shadow Puppets, you're just like, oh yeah, this is Shadow Planet. Like, it looks like it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
That's like got characters and stuff. Shadow Planet is more like these like organic, strange things, whereas puppets, they look like creatures and stuff. So Shadow Planet was originally released, it was supposed to be a PC game, and then it was actually picked up by Microsoft to be published on Xbox Live, and they made it part of Summer of Arcade program in 2011, which was probably pretty awesome for them, because I'm sure when Microsoft picks you up for Summer of Arcade, they're probably helping fund the project, and and they're going to promote it and stuff like that. So
yeah,
good for them to get that. It was released on August 3rd of 2011, and PC actually just recently, April 17th of 2012. And it has a Metacritic average of 76 on both Xbox and PC. So,
and it has an Elder Geek rating of worth buying.
Elder Geek, courtesy of you.
Courtesy of me, yeah.
Semi recently.
Yeah.
So with that, you've told us your thoughts on Shadow Planet in the review, but why don't you reflect a little bit?
Kind of looking back, I actually brought up a concept of one time before of changing scores, or at least talking about video games that you've reviewed in the past to see if you wanted to change a score on it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to change a score on Shadow Planet. I still stand by what I actually had to say about it. I think that it's I think anybody who is looking for a good Metroidvania game on a cheap budget, I don't think they can go too wrong with Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet. Downsides of it would be, I think anybody who is expecting it to be more twin-stick shooter than Metroidvania, they might be a little disappointed because the shooting is a little bit on the lighter side and it's heavier on the exploratory side.
Mm-hmm.
And
the puzzles.
And the puzzles. It's heavier on puzzles, and the reason why it's heavier on puzzles is because you float around in this ship and there's zero platforming. There's like no platforming because you can fly wherever you'd like on the ship. But aside from that, like the gadgets that you find, the tools that you find are all they're all really cool to play with. The art design is obviously phenomenal. Like I can't say a single bad thing about the art design at all. And and it looks so fluid. It's not even funny. I can't think of a game that animates more fluidly than this one. And it owes it all to the silhouette kind of art style that they create through the whole thing. My only, in retrospect, my only kind of setback to it is I wish there was a little bit more to the story. Like, I mean, I know you don't need much for the story to be effective for it to kind of really kind of hit home, but maybe just a narrator just saying 3 sentences of backstory about it would, I think, do a lot of good for the game. But aside from that, I really can't think of much else I really want to say about it. I really liked the game. I think that I would like to see a sequel for it. And I normally don't say that about games. I think that a lot of great games, once they do it perfectly, I don't want to see it done anymore because they can only go downhill. But I think he could do it well again a second time.
And I think there is actually room for improvement. And I don't mean that as like a slight, but
right.
My biggest beef with the visuals, which they look awesome, and like the sense of scale sometimes is like amazing. Like you're just kind of cruising along and the camera's real tight on the ship, and then you'll get to a room and it pulls out, and all of a sudden there's this huge boss, and your ship is like this little dot now, and just the way just the backgrounds and just the scope is pretty incredible. But the thing that kind of sucks about it is that other than the fact, it has areas, each area has its own kind of look, but other than the fact that each area has its own look, I never really knew where I was. I think it, this is obviously a visual thing. I was always checking the map to see where I was going because everything kind of looks similar. Other than the fact that the background's different on wherever you are, it kind of just has a similar look, and you kind of get lost easily. It's not like, let's compare it to Metroid since it's Metroidvania-ish. Metroid, you could show me a screenshot of any corridor in Metroid, and I can tell you exactly where it is and exactly how to get to that location because I'm so familiar with the game and just the way everything looks and just the way every area looks different. Whereas in this game, you could show me a screenshot and be like, "Oh, okay, well that's from the water place," but I can't tell you
That's from the
where.
ice area.
Yeah, but I don't know where in the ice area. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how to get there in my head. So that's kind of that kind of sucks, and I guess that's the visual designs. I guess that's a downside to the visual design is what I'm saying, is that everything kind of looks the same. And I'm not sure if that's because of probably the silhouettes. You're mainly just seeing silhouettes of things, so everything is just black. The only thing that's really just color, or anything that has real color, is the backgrounds and whatnot. So yeah, that was kind of my beef with the level design. I think the gadgets are pretty awesome. I like how they have multiple purposes. Like you get this claw pretty early on, and you're like, okay, I can pick up these little rocks and move the rocks around. But then you're kind of using it as like a grappling hook at one point. Another time, other times you're using it to grab onto things while wind is pushing you all over, and you're trying not to fall off the path. And there's probably like all these, there's all these different uses you're using just this one hook for that you're originally just using to just move rocks. And I like how the items had like that multi-purpose to them, which was pretty awesome. Even just like the buzzsaw, you get the buzzsaw and you grind rocks away, but you're also using it as a weapon. So it's cool how that kind of stuff work. And the missile, which is such a pain in the ass, by the way. The missile.
If you use the mouse, it's less of a pain in the ass.
I was about to say I did use the mouse, and it was awful. Really?
Oh, really?
Huh.
It's so much harder if you use the missile with the controller than it is with the
Wow.
mouse.
I
If I
tried.
was playing it with the controller, I would switch over to mouse and keyboard to shoot the missiles.
Wow. Well, I was gonna say like the missile's cool too because it's like you shoot it and you can control it and it does more damage than like your regular beam would do. But then there's almost like this mini game of sorts where when you fire the missile into like a hole, the camera zooms in and then you're guiding the missile through like these really tight corridors, which like at first I thought it was really cool, and then I thought, oh no, this is really kind of annoying. And I was getting so frustrated. That was when I switched over to the mouse, and I was trying to use the mouse. I was like, I can't do it. And I was like, well, I was getting halfway good with using the stick, so I might as well just get good at it using the stick, and I did to a degree. But I will say, as much as I liked the claw, at one point in the game. And Steve, we were talking about this earlier. You're in this ice world, and you got to move these crystals around, and you're using the claw to like take crystals out of the wall and then place them back in the wall. And it's such a clumsy mechanic. Like, I almost felt like giving up playing the game at this point because
Really?
That is where I lost it. That killed that I had. Yeah. Well, I'll let you finish the thought, Phil. But
yeah, because I mean, not only is it clumsy as far as taking the things out of the wall and putting them back, but they need to be in a certain way as well in order because you have to. It's like a Zelda-ish thing where you're bouncing light off, objects, and eventually you bounce it into the thing and it opens up a door or whatever. So at one point, you're setting up probably like 6 freaking crystals in the walls trying to get this light to go, and the crystals have like 4 sides to them. And you're trying to like spin them to get the right side, and the crystals just flipping all over the place. You're like, God damn it! And then you're not sure if you're getting it right. And the next thing you know, you spent 20 minutes just flipping crystals around, and and if you could just like put your hand in the game and just twist it yourself,
or if you just had a second arm that you could reach out to turn it into your arm. I get you. That part didn't bother me because I'm not saying this to like rub it in your faces, but I don't think I was stuck on that part for more than a second.
Wow. Of that stuff.
I might have just been lucky and was just placing them, near correctly the first time.
Wow, maybe you were, because I was flipping those things all over the place. I mean, good on you, but but I mean, Steve also had the problem, so I don't feel as bad.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I went out and I got so stuck on the last puzzle that involved that. It was at the end of the ice level. I had beaten the boss of the ice level, and all I needed to do was complete this puzzle to advance to the next level or whatever. And there was just this one crystal that you had to put in there, and it just would not stay. It kept falling out, and I ended up actually going out and looking up videos and stuff on YouTube, and I actually found other people having the same exact problem. And seeing some of like the crazy things they were doing to get past that part. One guy was stacking crystals up on the ground and like and angling them in a way so that it would shoot up and hit the thing that you needed to hit. And I got so frustrated at that point that I was just kind of like, because I was really enjoying the game up until that point, even though I did have some other issues with the controls here and there. I was still really enjoying it. And when I got to that part, I just hit a wall where I was not having any fun anymore because I was so frustrated by it, and then seeing other people having the same problem kind of just deterred me, and I was like, all right, I think I'm just gonna call it here, unfortunately. But
you didn't have too much further to go after that, by the way. So
yeah, well, the thing,
you definitely put a really good dent in the game.
Yeah, the thing said I was at 59% of the campaign, so I would have liked to have finished it, but unfortunately, yeah, that just frustrated me to the point where I was. When you're so angry that you're just not having any fun at all with it, then it's kind of when I stop, because I whatever, I have a lot of other things.
Especially when you got Guild Wars to go back to.
Yeah,
have you been playing that? I don't even know.
I didn't want to bring it up, but yeah, I mean, obviously. Yeah.
You said that you got to 59%, but I don't think it actually counts it like from beginning to end. I think that counts like all hidden treasures and like unlockables and stuff like that. So
for me, I think the highlights, I mean, obviously I'm not going to trudge over design and everything, because I share everything you guys said about that as far as feelings of the art style was great and everything. I really enjoyed the boss fights. That ice battle in particular, that ice boss, I thought was just really, really cool. I loved the hell out of that fight. Even though there was a couple times when I died, I was just like, God damn it. Like I was so close, and, but it was just really, really challenging boss battles and interesting use of having to switch between different weapons, to make it work. I really enjoyed that aspect of the game. I really liked the weapons. I loved, I think it's like the first thing you start out with is the thing that scans. I liked going around it was just fun exploring and scanning things, because sometimes you would maybe not know where you were going or what you're supposed to do, and you would just happen to scan something, and it would kind of just make everything clear to you. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to, like Phil said, like use the grappling hook on this thing to hold on while the wind's blowing, or something like that. Like those things that you grabbed onto, to me at first just kind of looked like background graphics. I didn't even really think I could interact with them. But then I was just shooting my scanner around, and it registered on one of them, and I was like, oh, okay, I can actually grab onto it. And then it was like it clicked, and it just all made sense. So I thought that stuff was designed really well and a lot of fun to do.
That scanner, by the way, not only was it really kind of cool and fun to play around with, but it really tied into the whole 50s UFO motif that your main character kind of had. And I really liked that too. I was like, this is kind of cool. Like you're the scary alien this time around.
Even you get that beam, like the abduction beam, which I thought was cool too.
Yeah, all the weapons were really cool, and I actually really enjoyed that little missile mini game. It reminded me of some Flash game I played like years and years and years ago, and I couldn't put my finger on what it was, but it was a similar kind of idea, except that the controls in the Flash game were awful. And I felt like this. It took a little while for me to get the hang of the missile, and I totally get what you guys were saying about it being frustrating. I still did it on the Xbox controller, but what I found was that my instinct when I fired the missile was to right away start trying to control it. And almost every time I did that, it would either crash into me and explode or like go right into something else, and it was just a mess. So I kind of started to get the feel for that. You had to fire it and then just kind of give it like a second to like kind of get out there, and then you could grab it and take control of it much easier. And once I got that down, I felt like it clicked for me, and that especially obviously helped on that ice boss battle, which I won't spoil for anyone who...
Well, you go ahead and spoil. I mean, this is Game Club, dude.
I guess we're going to be showing footage and stuff of it anyway.
Yeah, we're doing spoilers.
But yeah, so it's this boss battle, and it's the same thing. You got to use the missiles to hit the ice crystal things, which then shake off this barricade that's inside of this boss you're fighting. Meanwhile, there's lasers shooting all over the place, and these little snowflakes that are throwing frost darts at you, and then you gotta clear all this stuff out, and then once you get it clear, you gotta get a missile in there, kind of like the Death Star little ventilation port. You gotta get it in there just right so that it goes in and hits the core and blows up the boss. So you gotta repeat that 3 times. Each time it gets incrementally more difficult, and
like the path to the boss's core changes a little bit.
Yeah, it changes.
Angle the missile a little more.
Yep. Yeah. And then on top of that, you're also having more environmental distractions going on as well.
Yeah, there's tons of shit going on.
It's very Legend of Zelda: Link to the Pasty in its boss design almost, but harder.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot. I was thinking that like it's very much like a Zelda. They're very much like Zelda bosses. Like you get the item of the stage, or whatever, and then you're using that usually to defeat the boss. And usually what's cool is you're using like a bunch of your tools to defeat the boss. You're never just like using one tool and then switching back to like your default item. You're kind of like juggling between all your items, which is very cool. And then I gotta also say, like, the game doesn't have much music, but the music during the boss fights is always awesome. It's just like crazy drums going on.
Yeah.
And then when you get hit, there's a cool noise, like, instead of just like some kind of, I don't know, I can't think of a good example of like a game where you get hit and you hear like a noise where you're like, obviously you got hit. Instead of, in this game, it's just like this low hum that kind of happens whenever you just get like destroyed, and it's like really cool the way it works. It's like, it has very good atmosphere, the game. All the audio is very good.
Especially, I like when in the boss fights, or even in the mini boss fights, when you hurt the mini boss, especially if it's a monster kind of attached to the insanely twisted Shadow Planet, how it gives off that like hurt sound.
Yeah.
How it's like, I love that. It's almost like the whole planet is moaning instead of just like that one boss is just kind of moaning.
Right.
I can't remember what the heck that it really kind of reminded me of, but I'll tell you what, the sound design and the scale together kind of made you feel like you are just this tiny little speck exploring just this giant cavernous system, and I really loved that.
Yeah, I just finished the game tonight, so like I'm hot off the final boss.
That final boss is B.
Yeah, it was tough, but there was definitely a few times where I was like grinning during it because it was just awesome. It was just cool, Like it was hard though. I wasn't sure if I was gonna be able to do it. I was like, I'm running out of time. I gotta do it. And I did do it. He is tough, but I got better at him.
That is where I got my biggest hang up, was honestly that final boss. I bet you.
What part? He has 3 different phases. What phase was the one that got you? He has the first one is he has 4 tentacles and they're just firing shit everywhere.
No, it's the phase where he keeps doing the lasers.
Yeah, the lasers is tough.
Yeah, he keeps doing the lasers, and you have to like inch yourself closer and closer.
Yeah.
And the lasers, as you get closer to him, just get narrower and narrower that you can like exist in. And then when you get like that golden moment to fire, you've got to like at that split moment shoot a missile through a few like lasers that might be down, and it's totally worth it. Totally worth it.
Yeah, and then after that is when you gotta use the buzzsaw, which is not as hard as the laser part.
No.
But yeah, it's cool. And I didn't unfortunately check out any of. There's other modes, right? There's like missions in there, right?
They're not worth it.
No, they're not.
That was my other beef with the multiplayer. I kept wanting to try it and kept wanting to play it. And I even said it in the video review. I never found anybody else online.
I had the same. I tried the same thing, and yeah, I'd never found another game or another match or anything to join in on, which was disappointing. And I guess it's worth noting that this game uses Games for Windows Live.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. That is definitely worth noting.
I mean, I don't know.
That's not their fault. That's not Shadow Planet, man.
No, it's not. But
and I wouldn't necessarily say it's a dig against the game because, I mean, yeah, whatever. I mean, they got the game out there, and it's every time I play a game that uses Games for Windows Live, I'm reminded about how useless it is. So I guess that's the only thing worth noting.
I got my Chiefs out of it. I got my Chiefs.
You got some achievements, eh?
I actually forgot that it had some achievements. Gosh,
yeah,
I should look at my achievement list.
I got some Chivos.
Nice. Get that gamer score up there.
I think it's the first time I've got achievements like a year and a half. All right, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, so like for the both of you guys, what were like your absolute high points and your absolute low points for the game?
My absolute high points for me were the boss fights,
yes,
without a doubt, and the low points would be just some of the controls. I just felt were
ice crystals.
Ice crystals, yeah. Crystals. There were other. I'm having a hard time. I'm having a hard time coming up with what they were specifically beyond that. But I know that there were times in the game where there were some moments where I was controlling my ship and I was trying to do something, and I was just kind of like, this is really frustrating, but I pushed through until I got to that particular point, and then I was just done. But yeah, those would be my highs and lows.
Randy, what about you?
For me, it would be like, I think, my high would be, honestly, the art design. My low would be, I really think that they missed a huge opportunity of putting in some awesome music into the stage design, because the music that's there is phenomenal, but they really could have added a lot of personality to each level if they had a theme to the levels. Kind of like Super Metroid, where you could listen to the music from Super Metroid and envision exactly which level it's going to be on, and vice versa. You could look at the level and hear the music. But these levels don't have music at all, and I think that they missed a golden opportunity there. But yeah. I
think we cite Super Metroid probably every other game club.
It's a really damn good game.
I think it's like I think it may be the greatest game ever created.
We might have to.
I was thinking this the other day.
We should just do a Super Metroid game club.
Yeah, I would do that. I'd be down for that in the future. It's like perfect. Like,
the game it did so much right, and it did it in a time when the Super Nintendo was doing a lot of right things to begin with, but it did so much so different than everything else on the market at the time. So yeah,
we really haven't done a classic game in quite a while, so we might be ripe for one pretty soon.
You know what we got to do coming into because it's only going to be like 2 or 3 game clubs away. For October, we definitely got to do like Castlevania 4.
Oh yeah, we definitely should. Definitely should.
Because we did Symphony last year, right?
Yeah.
Yep, we did.
Yeah.
Now, what about you, Steve? You didn't do your highs and lows.
Yeah, I did.
He
Or
did.
not Steve's, Phil. You didn't do your highs
I
and lows.
basically I agreed with Steve. The highs. Well, you said the art. I guess the art is the high, but let's game wise, design wise here. Well, I guess that counts. But boss fights are awesome. It's like screwing around with crystals with the claw, easily the low point. Easily terrible, low, needs to be rethought. But yeah, I mean it's a cool game. I like it. Apparently reviewers were complaining that it was too short. I thought it was a fine length.
Yeah.
Maybe because I don't know. Maybe because my time is,
because your time is short. That a shorter game.
Yeah, my time is short. That I'm glad that I was just able to play like this game in 3 to 4 hours, however long it took me to do.
Well, how much does the game I got it during the Steam sale for like $2 or $3 or something like that. How much does it typically go for?
It's
Is
usually
it like a 10? 15?
Yeah, 10
Well,
or 15.
Maybe for $15 I could see that argument being valid from some people. But I mean, we've often said that we value a short, really good game more than a game that is stretched out in length and maybe not that great.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but I guess I could see that point of view for a $15 game, but I can't relate to it because I didn't pay $15 for it.
Yeah.
Shadow Planet is $15.
But I mean, that actually brings up another good point, though. It's an older game, and if you are interested in it, it's most likely going to go on sale somewhere at one point or another for a cheaper price than the $15.
Yeah, I mean, you figure we're getting into September here, so the Steam holiday sale is just a couple months away now, and they do the Black Friday sale, right, for Steam?
They almost always do a holiday sale or a winter sale or whatever they want to call it. But
Yeah,
if
so-
it's going to be anything like the summer sale, almost every single game that Steam sold was on sale at least at one point or another.
Right,
during it.
and if for whatever reason, if you're not into Steam, I mean, when that goes on, usually Gamersgate and a lot of the other services are also doing the same kind of deals. So, although this game's not, is this game specific to Steam? I forget.
I don't believe so. I mean, I guess you could always technically buy it through Games for Windows Live, and of course you could always pick it up on Xbox 360.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's that.
Yeah, maybe someone should
Yeah, a
buy
good
it.
game.
Someone should buy it through Games for Windows just so Microsoft can find out if that's working properly. And finally, get a beta test in there to see if a transaction will go through properly.
I think as a first effort from a guy whose background is in animation and probably I don't know his age, but if he's working on like All Dogs Go to Heaven, I'm gonna peg him in his probably mid 40s maybe.
Oh, easily, yeah. I would say
and
easy mid 40s, especially since he was not just Dogs Go to Heaven, but An American Tail as well.
Right.
You know?
Well, let me see. I can get his age real quick.
When did that come out? Like 87 or something like that?
Yeah, I was like a little kid when I saw An American Tail.
All right, I'll man up and I'll admit I cried watching that movie in the movie theater.
American Tail?
Yeah.
I don't remember it, but
I don't
do
remember seeing
being
it in the movie
sad.
theater, but I know I saw it at some point, like a VHS rental or something.
Poor little Fievel.
So he was born in 65.
Okay, so he's like 11 years older than me. Okay,
Let me get out the calculator.
I know. I'm like,
that would be 47.
47.
Yeah.
40. I was right. I was right with the later 40s, but I was close. Yeah. So for a guy in his late 40s, and he's an animation guy, and he just wanted to put like a video game together.
Awesome game.
Yeah, like a great first effort.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like a lot of thought put into it, and I don't know what his background is in video games. I don't know if he had played video games all through their period of he was old enough to play video games since the dawn of video games. You know what I mean? So I don't know if he followed the industry or what, but yeah, great first effort. And I'm curious to see if he does more. And if like you said, Randy, if they did like a Shadow Planet 2, there is room for improvement, and if he nails it, it would be a pretty awesome game. Like right now,
I mentioned the average on Metacritic is a 76, and I hate citing Metacritic, but I mean
But it is an
I don't
industry
know.
standard.
It has become an industry standard, and I would say that's a pretty fair score. Like I think it's on that one. I think it's kind of on the mark.
Yeah,
So,
I could agree.
and I don't think that's bad. I don't think 76 is a bad score. People
No.
think like I don't know. There's this mentality that when the Metacritic average falls below like 85, that the game is shit. I mean, that's not true. You know. You can
Yeah,
still have
if
great
it's a game that you're interested in, I would say that anything that's like above a 60 is a pretty good bet for you. Like if it's in a genre that you like, you know.
Yeah. Like, all right, here's a good example. I didn't write my review yet, but I plan on writing a review for Super Mario Brothers 2 for DS. And I can tell you right now, I will definitely give that like a 3 out of 5. But I believe it's a great game still. It's just 3 out of 5. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. I did some quick Googlage, and it looks like ITSP, you can only pick it up on PC through Steam and through Xbox Live Arcade.
Interesting.
Interesting.
That could always change in the future. Who knows?
Yeah. But so I guess all three of us give it at least a worth trying, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
And actually, well, if it's on Xbox Live, I mean, then people have the ability
demo.
to download a demo, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I would say if you're on the fence and you have an Xbox lying about your house, go ahead and download that demo and try it out first, because it's...
In Xbox monies, by the way, it is 800 pennies. What's the Xbox
Really?
monies?
So that's $10 then.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So
It's more expensive on Steam. That's weird.
I think it's because on Steam, when you buy it on Steam, you get the game plus the Shadowhunters game that automatically comes with it. And if you want to buy the Shadowhunters game, that counts as DLC for the standard game on Xbox Live Arcade. So the standard game on Xbox Live Arcade is 800, and the Shadowhunters is...
What's the Shadowhunters?
Is that the one where you can't find anybody to play it with online?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
It's the one you can't find anybody to play with online.
So you pay $5 to play with no one?
Yeah.
Right.
That's cool.
Oh, okay. Cool. Oh, all right. Well, then, yeah, check it out on Xbox Live, but don't buy the DLC because you'll be regretting that, probably.
You will be stuck.
Unless you and a bunch of your friends all decide you're all going to buy it and play it together, like one night a week or something like that, then I guess that would work. And the worst part about the worst part about games for Windows is that you're on Games for Windows and like people are sending you like party invites and stuff, and I'm like,
I know. They're trying to talk to you through Xbox Live Arcade, and you're like, no.
I'm like, this would be great if I could actually communicate with you, but I can't because I'm on a PC and you're on an Xbox, and for some reason they stopped at the point where it actually allows you to have any interaction aside from getting a party invite. That's the only level of interaction, or sending a message to someone. I guess I could send them a text message. At one point, Phil and I were both playing it at the same time, and I was sending him, him Steam messages saying, "Oh wow, isn't it awesome that we're on Windows Live and we can talk to each other while we play the game using Steam to communicate?" But no.
No, you sent a message through Xbox Live. I didn't know how to get it, and then you communicated through Steam. I was like, I don't even know how to check it. What do I do? And you go hit the home button.
Oh God, the home button.
Yeah.
Oy. It's silly.
But I don't know. I going back a little bit, I want him to make another one because there's so many cool puzzle things that he did with this game that I feel could go so much further.
Yeah.
Like when you turn the entire world, I'm like, oh, this is going to get awesome. And then just as those puzzles start getting good, they stop. But yeah. Oh well. All right, I'm done talking about this game.
All right. Well, then let us turn to community feedback then, and we've got some feedback from the unofficial fourth host of the Elder Geek Game Club, Frank, who always comes through with some fine feedback. He said, "I'm a huge fan of the game's designer, Michel Gagne. He's been working in this style for some time now, and when I heard he was going to make a game like it, I was really looking forward to checking it out. It doesn't disappoint." You all right there?
Randy's dying.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. It doesn't disappoint. The design and animation is fantastic. The gameplay is equally smooth. I really enjoy the slightly linear Metroid-ish world map too. Wasn't able to finish it in time. Who knows if I ever will, but I really enjoyed my time playing it. Total thumbs up for me. So thank you, Frank, very much. And if you're listening to the show and you want to take part in our next game, we would love it if you would submit some feedback to us via Facebook or Twitter, or you can email us at eldergeekgameclub@gmail.com. That's all one word, no hyphens or spaces or dots or dashes. Elder Geek Game Club. I know. I went with an easy to remember one to type out at gmail.com. That's mail as in mail that you mail people, and not mail as in like a mail stripper.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, I'm on Steam. I just saw that game Snapshot came out. The one by we talked about it before when we did Offspring Fling.
Oh, okay.
Might have to do that in the future.
Yeah, we'll queue it up for a future game club. And just out of
Sorry to interrupt with that.
No. It actually reminded me of something, and I know we don't usually do like news type stuff on the show, but it's worth noting that today is the day that the new Greenlight thing came out for Steam, where now developers can, I guess, submit their games to be evaluated and reviewed and kind of thumbs up by Steam users, and then they can then potentially be put on the Steam marketplace for sale. So it's kind of like Project Greenlight for indie games on Steam. Kind of.
Yeah, I was taking a peek at it today. It seems kind of cool, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. See what the community decides is worth buying.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
all right. Anything else tonight, Steve?
Nope. Let's. Speaking of next games and submitting your feedback for them, I guess we've decided that for the next episode of the Game Club, we are going to be doing Dear Esther, which has been a game that I've been wanting to play for a while and have not really. I think it's relatively short, so if you guys out there are looking for something that isn't a ton of time commitment, definitely give Dear Esther a try and send us some feedback. We will give Frank a little company, in the community feedback section.
I love reading Frank's name on our notes. It always says Frank via Shamoozle because he leaves his notes on shamoozle.com. But I always read it as his name is Frank via Shamoozal. I'm like, that's such an exotic name, Frank.
That is a good name.
But about Dear Esther, I haven't played it yet either, but I'm dying to play it for a few reasons because I'm a big fan of video games that kind of push the definition of what a video game is kind of supposed to be, and this looks like one of those kind of games. So there's tons of people out there that are like, this isn't even a game.
Yeah, it's been very polarizing. What I've heard
I don't know
of it.
I know nothing about it, so I'm going to be going in there totally.
Yeah, it's definitely like Randy said. It's from what I know of it. It's one of those things where people have kind of been of two camps. One being where like this isn't a video game, and then other people being like, well, it's a experience that you couldn't have any other way, except through a video game engine. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. And the guys who did it, we were talking about this before the show. It started out as a Half-Life mod or Half-Life 2 mod, and then they actually made a self-released freestanding game. And now these same guys are making the sequel to Amnesia. So that's kind of interesting, and I'll be curious, knowing all that kind of going into it, how it will skew or not skew my opinion of the game.
Yeah, it'll definitely skew how I'm going to be approaching the next Amnesia game.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I still got to play the first one. I mean, I'm talking about it like I know what I'm saying, but I haven't played the first Amnesia. It's one of those games I got to pick up, and it's always on sale, like all the time, and at some point I got to just grab it and play through it. I'm not a huge fan of horror games, but I think I could give that one a try.
Cool.
So yes, Dear Esther, please check it out. Or if you've already checked it out, if you played it months ago, we'd still love to hear your feedback, and we'll read it on the show just the same, even if you don't play it over the next 2 weeks. That's totally fine. Send it on in. Put it up on our Facebook wall. Post it on eldergeek.com. Send it to us over Twitter at eldergeek.com. Email that email address that I said earlier. any of those means, and we will read them on the show. And speaking of things like that, we'll just go ahead and do our usual spiel. iTunes and Zune people, we would love if you would take a moment and maybe give us some ratings on there. We're always happy to take stars, or if you actually want to leave a review with your stars, that's even better, because then, it makes us feel nice when we read people say that the show is either good. And if you say that the show isn't good, that won't really make us feel nice, but at least we'll be like, hey, at least someone listened to the show and they didn't think it was good. I take negative over nothing almost sometimes, so that's fine. We're always happy to hear criticism, constructive, preferably. So yeah, please do that. You can also check us out on Stitcher Radio. Stitcher Radio is a really nice app for iPhones and Androids. If you're using an Android and you want to check out podcasts, it's a pretty nice solution. So definitely check us out on there as well. Just search for Elder Geek Game Club on Stitcher Radio. And that's about it, really. Head over to eldergeek.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch TV. Lots of good stuff going on all the time, guys. Do either of you have anything you'd like to plug? I know you've...
Coming soon, we are going to be having our Friday night Creature Feature charity marathon, which by the time everybody hears this, hopefully the official announcement will be coming out. But our next charity marathon is basically going to be taking place in the entire month of October. So get geared up and get ready for that. It's already shaping up to be pretty awesome.
Very
And
cool.
Phil, I know you've been a little busy lately. You have anything you want to plug?
Sure. If you haven't seen it, I made a new cartoon a couple weeks ago for the Read Only Memory series. It's called Take a Key for Coming In, which is a Ghost and Goblin short. And when the title of that, if you're a fan of the game, when you defeat a boss, he drops a key, and that's what it says on the screen. Randy, it sounds like you're getting shot at when you type on that thing.
I'm so sorry. I need a quieter keyboard for when I do shows. Sounds like I'm hammering nails in when I'm typing on this.
So yeah, check that out on you do a YouTube search for Schmoozle. That's my username. You can find it there. Or if you want, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm also Schmoozle there.
Yes.
So.
And you can follow me at Steve Wilkinson on Twitter. That's my name spelled out.
Sounds so excited about it.
I'm always
That's my
yeah.
name.
If you want to be if you want to be enthralled with my wit on Twitter, which I try not to ever do because I don't want to be one of those guys who's like the witty guy on Twitter. But I'm just
You're not a Twitter spammer.
I feel like I'm getting bad. Am I getting bad?
No, you're
No.
fine. No, not at all.
Oh.
No.
All right. I feel like I'm starting to get bad.
No, you're not getting bad.
All right.
I think you're.
I would tell you. I'd be like, dude, you're getting annoying. I'm gonna unsubscribe from you.
All right. That's good.
And I don't have anything to plug. I don't have anything else going on except that I'm, leveling a warrior in Guild Wars 2. That's about it. So look for me in Guild Wars 2, I guess. I'm not going to say my name on there, but whatever. If you see a warrior, it might be me. That's all.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Very cool.
So thank you guys very much for joining us on this episode of Elder Geeks Game Club. We will be back in 2 weeks with Dear Esther, and have a great Memorial Day. Not Memorial Day. What the hell am I talking about? Labor Day holiday.
Labor Day, yeah.
Enjoy it. Labor Day. Don't go into labor. Unless if you really have to, then go into labor by all means. But preferably not. Much love. Take care.
Much love.
One love.
Bye, people.